right, good evening, everyone. It is 6:02, so I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order, given our 6 p.m. desired start time. So I want to thank you all for being here. This is our second meeting of CCAC this school year. So for those who may not know me, I'm Jamie Shoplin. I'm the chair of CCAC for this school year. And I want to especially thank Dr. Dyson, who I assume is on her way and is going to be here with us this evening to share some remarks around her budget priorities for this next budget cycle. And before moving into that part of our agenda, though, I did want to share a few updates with everyone. So I first want to congratulate Brooke Schmidt, our very own CCAC member who was just elected chair of CSAC. So congratulations, Brooke. Really exciting and an honor to have that state level representation here locally in Frederick. We are going to include updates from CCAC through Brooke as part of our agendas going forward. And Laura has also started to aggregate some of that information for us on the Google Drive. Good evening, Dr. Dyson. Welcome. So a few more updates. I did want to share that per the bylaws, a chair of the membership committee was selected, so Kara Phillips will be serving in that capacity. So thank you, Kara, for stepping up and taking the lead there. We are going to be looking for some changes to how we approach membership. We've gotten a lot of feedback around ensuring that our membership criteria is diverse, that we set our members up for success with some better onboarding practices, that we also look to kind of make sure that people are actively participating. So those are some changes that Kara is going to help lead as chair of that committee. That is the only subcommittee where the chair of CCAC selects the chair of that subcommittee. So we did fill that vacancy. And then I do just want to remind us all, as we're here, we do strive to follow Robert's Rules of Order and make sure that we respect everybody and give opportunities for everybody to weigh in on wherever we are within our agenda. So with that, we are going to move into approval of the minutes from September 23rd, 2024. Were there any changes to those minutes? If none, I would entertain a motion to approve as written.
Second.
So we'll just say,
Brooke.
I'm sorry. Anybody else want to make the motion? So Brooke moves to approve the minutes from September 23rd. Patty seconds that. Any objections? Okay, looks like unanimous. All right. So with that out of the way, we are going to move into our special guest, Dr. Dyson. Thank you so much for being here. I think you have about 15 minutes of your time to spend with us this evening, and I believe you're going to be sharing with us some information around your budget priorities and whatever else you'd like to share with the committee. So thank you so much for your time.
It's my pleasure. I'm glad to be here. This is a big group. You're intimidating just a little bit. Everybody looks different from the dais. But thank you so much for being here, for your participation on something that I think is really important, an area that I think is really important. So just for those I've never really met before, this is my 26th year in education. And I worked my way up from a teacher. Hi, Mr. Bass. I worked my way up from a teacher, and I was a co-teacher. And so, I've been working with special education students just about my entire career, advocating for them. When I became a principal at Strathmore Elementary, and Ms. O'Neill would know this program well, I had the Learning Center there. And those were students who were neurodiverse, but also wide-ranging abilities. And working with their parents was a joy. Including them in our programming was a joy. Preparing the conditions in the school so that we were all one school was a joy. Hard work, but definitely a joy to say everybody has a voice and everybody belongs in this space in our school. And as I got into district leadership as a director, well, before I left my school, they changed my program from Learning Center to what they call school community based. So those are our students who have significant cognitive and physical challenges. And that was really new for the school community at the time. It was the only one in that region, or what we called clusters at the time. And what that did for me in terms of reshaping how I feel about students. Our theme was One Dream, One Team, results for every student at the time. And, you know, results for students who have significant challenges really starts with the families. And so I would do open houses to make them feel welcome, to let them know that we were going to take care of their babies. And it was such a joy and a challenge, you know, for them to trust us with their children. I carried those stories with me as I went into district leadership and began to supervise special programs. I had a school similar to Rock Creek. We call it Stephen Knowles. And, you know, the emotional toll on the families of their children is what stuck with me as well. And so we, again, did a lot of work to stay close. When you lose a child, and, you know, it hurts the whole community. So I say all that to say, I bring all of that to bear with me as I think about our students who have, I call them special gifts. And so, you know, we coined disability. But if you choose to think about it from an asset base, I was reading one of the public commenters' comments for tonight, and I agree wholeheartedly that we do have to do a better job understanding the significant needs of our students, and that they're different, but they're also still gifts and they deserve to be served. In my position, what is challenging as we think about the budget is how do we create a space to hear, first of all, what people desire, you know, whether it's through public comment, emails, or me going out doing coffee and conversations with principals. We did 3 staff listening sessions, and now we're going to do 4 for our community. The challenge is, how do you give everybody a little something? When you have such constraints, legal constraints, such as Blueprint. And so I'll say I am a firm believer in the intent of Blueprint. I believe it is intended to transform education. It's the how that's challenging. You know, it's great that we have increased pre-K, but the infrastructure, not just in Frederick, but across the state, is not prepared to receive 3- and 4-year-olds, in addition to having kindergarten students all day. When we think about dual enrollment, pre-pandemic, FCPS spent $100,000 or so on dual enrollment, open campus, early college. Last spring, it was $3 million. And it's a requirement in Blueprint. When you think about the incentives for teachers, and research tells us our teachers are the closest thing to achievement for our students. So when you think about those incentives, if you're National Board certified, the maintenance of that certification, we get half, and then we have to pay the other half. So they get $10,000, and then you negotiate the maintenance of certification for years 1, 2, and 3. And then you get to our pillar 4, which to me should be the first one, and that is a focus on our special groups, our multilingual learners, and our special education students. And so we do have some, the big piece of that is the concentration of poverty grants. We do not have any, what the state would call low-performing schools. So our concentration of poverty grants do provide supports for our students in those groups. And we know that everybody here sitting here knows that we have a desire to continue to expand our services here in FCPS, and we have done so since I've been here, not at the pace we'd like, but we have been able to do so. So I listen intently when I hear you know, parents passionately advocating for not just their child, but children who look just like their children, and the reasons why. And so my job right now is to develop a recommended operating budget for the Board of Education to then approve. And so we're already thinking about not the numbers, but how we're going to approach that so that we can explicitly include the comments that we heard so people can see themselves in that budget. And so we don't know right now what we will receive. We are scrubbing our September 30th numbers. But I can tell you, working with Dr. Alavito, who's our chief of schools, when we look over the past few years, if you exclude the pandemic, we have grown significantly, but our growth really has been in IEPs and 504. So our students who have needs and our multilingual learners. And so what does that say? That pillar 4 is really pillar 1 for us. When we look at our demographics in this region, if you think about Alice, asset limited, income, what's the C? Income, is it challenged?
Constraints?
Income constrained, and what's the E?
Employed?
Employed. So those are the folks who don't really qualify for a lot of social services, but they need them. And then we have that's about 35% for this western region. And then we have about 35% in this district of families who qualify for free and reduced meals. So that's about 70% when you think about who we are in Frederick. When I think about serving every child every day and every family, that's who I'm thinking about. So we've made great strides in terms of professional development. We've used the audit really as a guide, and I'm so grateful for the board for approving that because it is a guide for us. I wish we could do all of it at one time, but the team has been strategic about where the greatest needs are and how we move forward with that. So I do want to say again, and it's not cliche-ish, but we do listen. And I do fight. I do advocate. I let everybody know in my group when I talk to the state superintendent, the pressures of the blueprint I think need to slow down because it handcuffs us in a way that we can't do what we know is best for our community. And I'm not just speaking about Frederick, but my buddy in Cecil, my partner in Cecil, same. Having to transfer tons of students in order to meet the 75-25. Transfer teachers, from school to school. Or my colleague in Kent, who is the opposite of us, and they're losing students, and still expected to deliver the same thing, same programming. And so I would just close by saying, in any way, shape, or form you feel you can advocate. With our delegates, so they need to know, I did share in our implementation plan, I believe it's part 2, pages 7 and 9, you will see the public version of the challenges that we believe we face because of the pressures of Blueprint, and we've shared them with AIB. And as a group, as a superintendent group, we are working on something to present just before legislative season. Because I feel like things are good, but when we know what works for our system, it is very difficult when you have mandates. It doesn't allow you the flexibility that you'd want. Nonetheless, we're going to press forward and try to present a budget that puts our priorities first, and not you have to dig through them, but you should be able to see them clearly. We still have inflation. Our electric bills, we're looking at 9% increase. So, and that's just electric. That's not fuel for the buses. That's not a replacement bus, things that we have to do by law. And those things pained me because it costs to run a system. But we're going to do our very best to think about those students who need us the most.
Thank you so much. Are there any themes that are kind of bubbling up that you're hearing, or maybe any particular focus areas of the audit that you think might be relevant as the next strategic focus that you might be able to share with us tonight?
Sure. I mean, one of them is, I think it was definitely highlighted in the audit, but as I do coffee and conversations, I've been doing them since I've been here, since I started. This is year 3. It's the continuum of services, and it's the profile of the students that we're receiving. So, you know, they would want more classrooms, like more expression classrooms instead of, and we did expand expressions, but they keep coming, right? And so, but it's not just the number of students, it's their needs. And how do we look at it so we can address them in a way where we don't just create homogeneous groups, but yet we're thoughtful about how we do group. The challenge on the other side of that is finding folks to teach. And so even if we expand it, we have to make sure we have highly qualified teachers. So we do have some Grow Your Own programs for our special education instructional assistants so that they can become teachers, certified to be teachers, and then we want to keep them. So I would say expansion of those programs. I am not a fan of non-public placements, but I recognize that some of our students need something different. And so that's why the 2 RISE programs classrooms were added, so that we can try to strategically on our own as a system address the needs of neurodiverse students. And ensure that the class sizes remain small enough so that they can really be served and served well. So I think the audit has been a good guide for us. We've restructured ourselves down here so that we can increase support to schools. It's never enough, right? You always need more. I attended the special education school improvement, was it symposium? Summit. And I was just delighted to see the engagement of staff learning new things, like about co-teaching, how it's not one stand and one sit, but it's really how do you engage, and they really started doing some practice around that, and I'm hopeful for that to continue in the system, because I know from my teaching days that co-teaching works, and it helps to keep children in included settings. And so we have a singular focus on that as well. You know, we're still under our settlement agreement. It takes a lot of our resources, but I believe it's the right work. And I've said this to many groups, and I've said it to DOJ when I have had the chance. We're not just trying to comply. We're trying to do what's right for kids. We're trying to rebuild trust with our families. We want families to know that they can trust us with their children. And at the same time, I recognize different settings are more appropriate for some. And I'm not the parent. I'm just an experienced educator. And so in that, we try to have a get to yes spirit. How do we accomplish both? So I think for the audit, we're going to continue on the path that we're on because it's working and it's important. It's just we need more. We need more.
Great. Okay, to take some questions?
Absolutely.
Okay, anybody have? Zoe?
I just want to let you know, I'm a proud member of the Maryland Youth Programs. I'm coming for special education.
Yes.
It's just a journey.
Yes, it is.
So
But
with
thank
that
you.
being said, right now I am part of the support staff, and my question to you is, we aren't really included in the blueprint, and right now the majority of us aren't living or aren't working in a livable wage, and so we're working multiple jobs. So although my passion is with the kids and I love the kids, I am working 50 plus hours a week, so I'm tired and emotionally drained and physically drained, and I would love to give 150% to the kids. Is there something on your radar about helping us have a livable wage so that we might be able to only work one job and be able to put all of our energy into that one job and those children?
So thank you for the question and for the work that you do. You are needed. You are needed. I always say the support staff is the heartbeat of the system, no matter where they're situated, whether it's, repairing our buses, greeting our children when they get on the bus, assisting on the bus, every person makes a difference. And so I do, in theory, support the living wage, and I'm disappointed. The blueprint isn't everything, right? And when you think about, even for middle school students, it's silent. You have to infer that to be CCR ready by 10th grade, you gotta go back to elementary and make sure the foundation is right? So everything is not in the blueprint, and I think people recognize that, but they were trying to pull the biggest pieces out. There are some things we're working on. So I can't negotiate in public or talk about that, but there are some things. The policy committee just went through a revised version of the administrative management and technical group. Doing so allows us to be creative, but those conversations have to happen with the board. So I'll just stop and say, we are thinking about how to present some options for the board to have some creative ways to sort of honor our support staff, because I hear you. And I will just say there are board members who also feel the same, that there should be something for our support staff, who are probably the lowest paid in our system, have to work multiple jobs, but give us 100% every day. Show up, right? And so there has to be a way, if we're gonna spend all this money on teachers, and we do, it's public knowledge, we have Me Too language, how do we pull them in, right? So that we can maybe differentiate how we're looking at some of those pieces. So that's all I'll say for now.
I just wanted to see if it was
Yeah.
on the radar since
Yeah,
like,
it's
some of
it's top of mind for me,
Yeah,
because I hear it.
that's what gets sent out, we're not necessarily included in
Yep.
like the blueprint, so it's kind
Yep.
of
Yeah,
left behind.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Who else has a question?
One quick question.
Hi.
Hi. We want to follow up to this because we're getting tight on time. Can I use the superintendent at fcps.org to contact you?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Anyone else? Go ahead, Kara.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, one, thanks for coming. I have 2 kids. My oldest will be getting his certificate of completion this year after Learning for Life. He's been in Learning for Life for 10 years, so he started as a 3rd grader. And then, so he'll go to Success next year, which we're super psyched about. So that's one
That is-
thing. If you haven't
That's
been
the best place to be, absolutely.
I've been promoting program for years, and I think, I wish we could do it for our certificate-bound students on a whole different need. That's like my big picture wish. However, and then my daughter is currently in Pyramid in Newmarket. Also want to say, if you have not visited that middle school
I have.
or Pyramid program, it is being done really well. Nothing's perfect, but I will say that I've been really impressed. I really love the coordinator there and how he manages his staff, so just wanted to kind of throw that out there. I'd say knock on wood too, because never
Yes,
going to change
yes.
with her in any given moment. But I say all of this too because I mentioned that my son was there since he was in 3rd grade and he's now graduating, and my daughter has had some challenges which have led her to Pyramid after lots of discussion around possible non-public. I, like you, it was the last resort. Like, I didn't want her to send her out of county. I didn't want her to go to a place that was completely the opposite of being an inclusion situation. So all that being said is having more conversations around inclusion. I bring it up, they've heard me before, but more opportunity for inclusion. I think that if both of them had, it's all in retrospect, but if both of them had better co-teaching opportunities with better SDI and those types of things, and that ability back when they were younger, they wouldn't have been either the child that was being in an avoidance situation or the child that was just going to be sitting with his para or SEIA in the back of the classroom. He thrived, he's doing great, but now that he's been very included in the high school, and I can see what it's like when the maturity level gets there, it's really cool to see. I think both of them could have continued being in less restrictive environments with just different supports. Was not the teacher's fault, it's just the way that you know, people don't always know how to co-teach. It's a skill. You
is.
need experts to come in and help us change what co-teaching really can be. You know, it's beneficial for not just our special education students, but those who haven't been identified and the other students. So I just say that to say that we'll probably be bringing more to you, when I will, about inclusion and some thoughts around that. But definitely love to hear you say that and just know that it's top of mind. So.
What was so powerful, and I remember it like it was yesterday, is my co-teacher, Barbara, was, we used to plan together, and the way our flexible groups worked, you would never know who the student was that had an IEP.
You shouldn't, and it's amazing.
And they were some of the bulbs in the, so by content, there was something that was so interesting to them that they would become the experts in the room and gain that street cred, if you will, right? In the classroom, like, oh my goodness, Kara knows that, right? And it would bring them out in a way that was so rewarding. And so it took a lot of work though, because you have to do some pre-testing and some post-testing, and you gotta mix your flexible groups up. But it was so beneficial. We did that 2 hours every day for literacy, for math, and for writing. And
It's hard, getting the right mix of teachers that can work
Powerful.
well together, and it's gonna be hard, but I think that once you can get past that culture shift of co-teaching's okay, and it's not like one's just sitting in there to help, like you are together in it, and have that ability to not know who's which teacher. That's gonna be, it's a skill and a culture change, but I think it can be done. I'd love
I
to
think
see.
the team is doing a great job building that from a professional development standpoint to say, what is it? Let's disavow ourselves of what we thought it was. And then we have some schools that are doing it really well already. So we're trying to learn from them so we can see it,
Fantastic.
you know, done well everywhere. Thank you.
Any other questions? Jake?
Okay.
Dr. Dyson. First of all, I'm going to echo everybody else. Thank you for being here. One thing I was just wondering was, I've heard a lot about what teachers and parents can do to kind of promote an inclusive environment and help out our specially educated students. What can some of our generally educated student peers do, our student bodies, just from some of the stuff that you've seen, all the work that you've done? What can we do to kind of foster that inclusivity and collaboration?
I think one of the things is to make it cool to be friends with somebody that's different. When I was at, I think it was Tuscarora High School, they're the ones that have the LFI right in the front. One of our schools, they have a program right in the front. And right, yes. And so when they get so excited to see the students who are walking in the hallways come by and say hello, or just, I felt special being in there because they had so much to say. Or the program at Oakdale High School, TJ High School. I think it's, you know, how can you use your voice to advocate for mentor groups? And that's another place you can include them based on their interests. And then they won't be so afraid to navigate in the building because they know that they have critical friends across the building who care deeply about them and want to see them succeed. You know, I think about AFA and the performances, just the practices. How cool would it be for the students to be able to come and be an audience for just a few moments? And how calming would that be to some of our students to know? And maybe they play instruments too, and would be able to somehow engage and participate. So I think it's, you know, be a friend, be a mentor, advocate for that, you know, and student government, talk about how we can move beyond because it's powerful when you do it. I've seen, we have a few pre-K programs that are at high schools, and it was so powerful to see them, the students who are talking about early childhood, go into the pre-K class and actually demonstrate and practice what they're learning, and the kids just love them so much, and they love them so much. That same model can happen for students to go into specialized programs and be a friend, right? Be a friend.
Anyone else have questions? All right, we are working on some recommendations that we're pulling together for our annual Board of Education connection, and we intend to share those with you ahead of time, just so we'd love to make you aware and just let you know kind of what we're bringing from our different lenses as parents, community members, staff. And so we intend to share that with you in advance.
Great.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time this evening.
Thank you. I'm gonna hang out just for a little while longer, if that's okay.
Absolutely. All right, so we're going to move into the next part of our agenda here. So we have an update from our Board of Education liaison, David Bass.
Yes. Well, few updates. So I'm going into my last month on the Board of Ed. My last CCAC meeting will likely be the one in November. And 3 areas that I'm thinking about and some of this, 3 areas I continue to think about are budget. I was reassured by a lot of what Dr. Dyson said this evening regarding budget, both in terms of being informed by the audit. I actually, I don't know if I would share, I'm not certain that I've heard Dr. Dyson articulate about how important around the non-public placements, really investing in things like the RISE program here, and that that had been a priority for me over my 4 years on the board. So just so much of this is reassuring to hear a lot of this. Though the advocacy that folks will be doing around the budget will be very important. I think that it was almost coming full circle a little bit that we had the report at the Board of Ed on the task force on cameras in classrooms. And I really think that the task force did excellent work. I think that I feel like I definitely had, I feel that personally I may have had a, vested interest in perhaps a different outcome, but I really respect the work that the task force did, and there remains opportunities for
Sorry.
you're fine. Whether everyone knows this or most folks know this, that the task force basically did not recommend going forward with a pilot. But I don't know, other opportunities remain, I think, at the state level. I think most states that have done this, state legislation has driven this. And so I think it was an excellent process. And what can I say? I sort of recognize I feel I had a dog in the fight, and may have been looking for a different outcome, but can certainly respect the process. And I think it was good to see a conclusion to that. During my time on the board. And the final thing, I think I had brought this up a couple meetings ago, as the policy committee looks at cell phone policy, I really do think that CCAC will have needed input. And so whether you want to provide that input to me or to the chair of the policy committee, Ray Gallagher, or as part of the CCAC recommendations to the board, I just think that some, exceptions or different circumstances with devices, as I said a couple months ago, and I think there was, some agreement from parents and students, are there times that a device can help a student with different learning needs actually stay more focused rather than less focused? And so I'm definitely interested in input from CCAC into this policy. I think it's moving quickly in our policy committee. I can't remember if it's going to be just in the next couple weeks or if we're looking more in December or January, but I definitely want folks to be thinking about that, and I think it should be part of the recommendations in December, if not before.
Okay, sounds like it's moving quickly, and we should definitely take a look at that.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Absolutely. That's my update. If there were questions.
Just as a comment, as chair and probably a veteran member of CCAC, David, you've been an amazing liaison with us. We've had some good members and we've had some okay members, and I think that the guidance that you gave us over the last, however long we've been on the, feels like 3 or 4 years, but I think it's only been a year and a half or so.
I wanted it to be 3 or 4 years, but yeah, I think it's just been 2 years.
Yeah, no, and for those that are new to the committee, the liaisons are here to kind of support us, help guide on what we can and should share, and things like that, and then bringing information back on our behalf to the Board of Ed. When we speak at least once a year, we're working on doing it more, but David has been a huge advocate and help in guiding us there, so we hope to get someone as great as you on the next round. But
That's very, very kind. Thank you. And I can genuinely say it's a far more engaged CCAC committee with a, I don't know, packed house and everyone doing strong work. So credit to all of you.
Thank you. All right. So we'll move into the next part of our agenda. So we're going to hear from our Department of Special Education directors. So over to you, Katie, Troy, and Dr. Beebe, if you have anything.
So the first update that we have for tonight is our IEP supports for transportation staff. Just kind of wanted to give you all an overview of how we take care of that every year. And so it is a threefold approach. And so for our students that have IEPs that receive special transportation, we address, of course, with our staff disability awareness. And we really talk about behavior management on the bus, and then we dive into the individual IEP concerns. And so for all of our specialized programs, it is mandated that they actually ensure that they schedule a time with their buses, their bus drivers and their bus assistants with our transportation department to actually pull them aside after they finish their route. I see Sarah shaking her head. She's one of our coordinators. And so we set this up. And so typically, of course, it is, what do I need to know about student-specific IEPs? And that could range from, they have a behavior plan. What are best tips to work with them on the bus? There's certain accommodations that they have in their IEP that would be beneficial on the bus. They have a communication device, or how do they communicate? But even things like, what is their disability? Many of our bus drivers and bus assistants, they may not understand that information, and so we even train them on disability awareness. And then, of course, as you all know, some of our students do not ride special transportation. So that's more of case managers having conversations if they understand that a student might be having concerns on the general education bus. And that's also you all, of course, parents, if you're ever talking to a parent, that's something that if you know that there's routines or habits or any of that can impact your child, I would always let the IEP team know that, because when they're training transportation staff, they're training them on those components that I discussed. So, if there's not something highlighted in their IEP, and the staff don't know about changing routines and things like that, that may cause concern, then our transportation staff may not always hear that. But everything, many of our students get to see the same bus drivers day in and day out, so that's awesome. But of course, during the summer, that's something that we're going to be thinking about for the upcoming PSY. And so that was just information I wanted to bring to the team. You guys are happy to ask me questions afterwards. So I'll pass it over to Katie to talk about our other updates.
So I'm excited to talk a little bit about the audit. It's one of my favorite topics, and I want to draw attention to what we are doing in regards to co-teaching, because that's one of our main focuses as a department moving forward. So we do have Ms. Freelander, who's in our position that works on inclusive practices, and we've talked a little bit about her role before. I think she might be coming to speak to CCAC in a little bit. But then we also have Carly Parsons, who is our AEP grant teacher specialist. So she works in combination with Barbara to put together our resources that support co-teaching. So what they've done is they've selected target schools, and they are really focusing their efforts on those target schools to include look-fors and site visits within those classrooms to be able to engage that audience. So they put together a plan that's going to hopefully elevate co-teaching within the district. But again, it's starting small and doing it well, and starting with the foundation. So even this summer, there was a summer opportunity for teachers, mostly the Catoctin feeder pattern and then some of what we call our TSI schools, our Target Improvement Schools, where they were able to come together and do a summer symposium to kick off co-teaching, to build that foundation before it even started. So because we were talking about co-teaching and inclusive practices tonight, just wanted to draw your attention to that from the audit, because that is one point that we monitor. And those two are really taking the lead on the charge. You can look forward to a co-teaching website they're looking to redesign, in addition to a book study, and even possibly a visit for Megan Stein to come and do some work with our district. So I'm gonna just look at their plan really quickly to see if there was anything I missed. And the internet's not working. Not Megan Stein, Elizabeth Stein. That's the principal on my brain.
I thought so.
You could have.
And she's like the master of all co-teaching, right?
Yep. My apologies, I talked to Megan earlier. So again, lots of great resources being developed in addition to the professional learning that staff are receiving, and then that on-site coaching. There's also an inclusive guidebook that's coming, not just for staff, but also for parents as a resource, so you can look for that in the near future as we look to roll those two resources out. Any questions about co-teaching and inclusive practices? On the agenda, there were links to the presentation from the board meeting. So there was the proclamation that was read, and then some KPI data. But I'm not going to spend a ton of time diving into it unless there's something that you guys had a specific question on.
Any questions for Katie or Dr. Bernier?
The only thing I was going to add for the co-teaching is part of that summer work was also with the Mind Brain Education. So they attended like a seminar where they talked about what does co-teaching look like, sound like, feel like, gave co-teachers the opportunity to really talk about their roles and responsibilities, talked about different types of co-teaching so that they could talk about when to utilize different types, because you have station rotation, you have parallel teaching, you have just different types, and so it's important for them to understand all of those. But then a real big part of it was them looking at our evidence-informed instructional strategies, really trying to build up their toolbox so that whenever it comes to designing the instruction, having evidence-informed strategies that they both understand, so that when you're implementing the instruction, you have the same knowledge and expertise. And so that was a big piece of the summer work, was really putting more tools in the toolbox so that they could really differentiate and work together to scaffold the learning for all the students that are in the classroom. So, but again, like Katie said, we wanted to start with a small number so that we could really refine and hone in as we continue to grow throughout the district.
That was my bright education.
It's like the learning sciences.
Anything else? All right. You heading out. Thank you so much, Dr. Dice.
Thank you all so much. Appreciate you. It's good seeing you again.
All right, so we will move into our Partners for Success.
So one important update is that Rachel had to leave. She moved counties, and so her spot is vacant for the moment. And so
Trying to hide the shocked
I did a gasp.
So she did want me to share that she really had enjoyed serving with all of you and working with all of you, and just had this atmosphere that she could be a part of. She really enjoyed it. She really loved serving all of you as well. So she just wanted to say that she was sorry, and that if she could have, I guess, stayed here in any way possible, I think she would have. But
We'll tell her there's very big shoes to fill for
Yes.
whoever comes in.
So sad.
I know.
It's really sad.
So they were able to post her position. I believe that it is closing today, and then we'll be moving with finding someone to replace her.
Which again, tough shoes to fill.
Yes, very tough shoes to fill.
But she has a great partner.
Yes, yes, she helped me with a lot.
Right foot, left foot.
Yes, exactly. So just kind of other updates is still trying to plan for the year, but currently next month we have partnered up with the interpreting for ASL, for deaf awareness activity. They are doing a library, kind of a storytelling resource type of event, and that'll be November 14th for our deaf community. And so that'll be on November 14th from 5 to 8. November 20th, we are doing a webinar with OT and PT to explain more about what OT and PT looks like in the school, and to explain that more to parents. And then this morning, I met with Lauren Eulander, BCBA, and Matt Blazek to put together a behavior webinar. And that'll be December 10th, and that'll be from 6 to 7:30, and they're going to go over, let me look at my notes. They're gonna go over a little timeline of a behavior implementation plan so that families and parents can see the timeline of how that works and how long it takes and what it looks like. They're also going to be sharing reinforcements and kind of the settings between school and home, what it looks like within the school and what it looks like at home, and then sharing tools that can be used at home when it comes to behaviors. So that'll be, I'm very excited for that one. There are other ones that are in the works, correlating with Brooke, to do like an advocacy workshop, and then an Autism 101 with Pathfinders. We're setting up one for that. Adaptive PE and dyslexia, as well as assistive technology. So those are all ones that we are communicating and setting up kind of plans and dates for that. And then my favorite ones is our sensory-friendly movie nights. So we're gonna have one in December 5th. Not sure on the movie quite yet. And then we are also doing another storytelling at the Walkersville Library. And that one, I believe, will be November 6th. And I will advertise more and share with you guys all those things. So lots to do right now. And so I am a one-man band for hopefully not too much longer. But that, and then continuing the Parent Resource Center. Those are slowly getting acclimated and slowly working towards opening an open house and sharing just everything that we have to offer with parents and families and staff members, and hopefully trying to continue to share what we do with everyone, especially with staff members. I think that's our first point of contact, because reaching every parent out there is easier when we have our staff members who see those families every day and who talk to them every day is going to be really important.
They did have posters made that they're going to ask school to put up in where IEP meetings are held.
Yes, so we have.
That was one of the suggestions that came out of CCAC, so they did work to make that happen, and so there will be posters that'll be available for
Yes, we have an English and a Spanish one to go in, and hopefully they're IEP rooms, so that they're just there for families to look at.
Just remember the virtual situation. So there's a lot, like, we always do ours virtually. We don't go into the school. So
Yes.
if there's a way to share that virtually.
I think, I mean, I have them virtually already made, so that's something I can definitely just share in that sense as well. So that I can put as well as to send out for them to have on their, honestly, I could probably just put those on Peach Jar to just have up on the school's Peach Jars permanently, so I think that might be good as well. But I think that's all my updates. Does anyone have any suggestions, any questions?
Tara?
As you guys are, well, as you Solo and other folks that are working with you are putting together the Parent Resource Center, are there things that you need or are looking for? Or as you get closer, are there times where you may need volunteers to come in and physically help put stuff together, hang stuff up, things like that, that any of us might be able to help you with?
That's a great question. I'm not quite sure. I mean, the stuff getting ordered is coming in, but I'm not sure when that is, or
I'm thinking like, oh, we're looking for used books to have for children, or as people are like cleaning up before Christmas, and like, are you looking for
I definitely think
toys or activities or things like that for children if they're with their parents, or
I think that would be great. I mean, the plan is to have kind of a little children's corner, to have children things, sensory things for their kids to play with, so that if parents do bring them in, that they can occupy and hopefully as well just enjoy the space along with the parents. I think another big thing is just brochures. I know we've worked a lot with Dorothea and her wonderful website on resources that are in the community, but I would love just more of the same resources that we can put on like our brochure wall that we have. We just kind of collect every time we go out, and so if you know more community members that want to share their stuff that we can put in there, that would be great. Books are always wanted. We have our lending library, and then we also have a bookshelf for children's books as well.
so some CCAC rack cards would be dope.
I think that would be yes. Maybe.
Just a quick question. You said, will the webinars be posted then later, just so people can go back and view them?
Yes, it does depend on who we are partnering with. Some, like Pathfinders, don't allow their, I guess, presentations to be recorded. But usually if we do get the permission and we record them, they will be posted on our website.
Okay.
And so some past ones are already up on there, and then any future ones that we are allowed to record, they'll be uploaded on there.
If there is an opportunity for CCAC to be there when you do the open house, to have a table, or just to be there to let people know who we are and what our role is, it would be great to have that opportunity.
100%, you will be on the invite list.
All right. Laura.
I just have a compliment. Issa, thank you so much for all the hard work you're doing.
Thank you.
And I know that you've picked up the torch. You are now the right foot. And personally, I will miss Rachel very, very much. I'm really
She will
holding
be
back
very missed.
tears right now. But thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Anything else for Partners for Success? All right, we're going to move into updates from Brooke. CSAC. What's going on in the world of CSAC?
Hi. So this month was mostly, so we were statewide, full transparency, a little behind. So we actually just held our first meeting 2 weeks ago that Jamie was on. It was a joint CSAC and chairs from CCACs across the entire state joined. And the majority of the presentation this month was actually Dr. Hickman, which those of you who don't know is our, I wrote it down because I did not want to mess this up, Assistant State Superintendent of Early Intervention and SPED. So he came and talked a lot about 5-year plan at the state level. I am still waiting to get a copy of the slides, but when I do, my goal is to make sure that everything that's happening at state level is then coming down to Jamie and being put in our Google Docs so you guys are also able to see what's happening during our state meetings. I think one of the big takeaways is, so Maryland as a state actually for several years has not met OSEP requirements and has fallen behind on some of that, and we're now as a state meeting that for the first time in a long time, so that was great to hear. I think
Everybody know what OSEP stands for?
Sorry, I'm going to talk in a lot of
everybody knows.
So
Maybe for the public that's here, maybe we should say what OSEP
yes,
is.
so OSEP is the Office of Special Education and Programs. So it's the federal level. So the federal level, and then it comes down to your state level. So MSD is our state, and then it comes down to your local level here at Frederick County. So there's targets. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this, but there's targets that are set from a federal level that then down that the state have to meet that then come down. Blueprints. Part of that, as you heard Dr. Dyson talk about earlier, there's a big push through Blueprint. And there's a lot that they're trying to get aligned between all of that. So that's another big thing that came out of the meeting, and I really appreciate Jamie speaking up from a local level and bringing that forward, because I feel like some of us have been a broken record, that there needs to be a lot more alignment between what's happening in Blueprint. There's a Blueprint special education work group that's happening, in alignment between what's happening there, what's happening at our state CSAC meetings, what's happening at the local level, and the communications being transparent and flown through all of those areas, and it hasn't always been. So that's a big push, and I think Dr. Hickman heard that loud and clear. There was a big push of that even at an OSEP level at their leadership conference that I went to in August. And so I think he's hearing that from all levels, that one thing we want as a whole state is for a lot of transparency and communication happening everywhere, and for input, the importance of input from families. So I think he heard that loud and clear. And the other update was the state did have to file a waiver. This is going to be some Appendix A, so any kiddos in their IEP, if they're taking an alternate assessment rather than our state assessments, the goal as a state is to be below 1% of children taking those alternate assessments, and we were over that as a state, so we had to file, say we, like I'm not part of the state. The state had to file a waiver for that, so that was pushed out through CSAC as well. I think that's it.
That form became like 20 pages instead of 3. That was fun.
There's a big push too, that things that are being pushed out, the more family friendly, the more we can consolidate, make things make sense. There's a lot of work to be done, but I think it's moving in the right direction, hopefully. And that will be a big part of my goal, is working with Jamie, being on chair for that, to be able to make sure things are coming down here to Frederick County. And I'm always happy to answer questions anybody has on what's happening at the state level too.
Great. And I'm sure you'll let us know where you need us to speak up and provide input, and so we look forward to getting that guidance. So thank you, Brooke. Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, what were like the big items that were not being met that we now are on track to meet? Was there anything like glaring that was out there, or?
I'd have to go back and
That's
ask.
okay, I was just curious.
Off the top of my head, but I can find out for you. Just curious.
Typically, it's similar things. So for instance, one of the targets is the alternate indicator. So for years, most districts, even us, we go right above 1%. It's like 1.04 right now. And so that is an indicator, it's less than 1%. But across the district, every county has to be 100% on time with their initial eligibilities. So there's probably still some indicators that we're not on target with. But even our gap between our students with disabilities and our general education students and their testing performance is an indicator that they look at.
I do want to just echo the acknowledgement. There were other chairs on there, as Brooke mentioned, who were also talking about needing to get information to CCAC. So we are not the only CCAC group that isn't getting information kind of flowed down from all of these different activities that are happening at the state level. So I think that was appreciated, and that awareness is getting heard. So we're going to try to connect the dots and make sure that information is flowing a little bit better. Okay. So moving on to subcommittee reports. So for moving into subcommittee reports, if we can keep it sort of succinct and germane to what if you have a motion, let's focus on the motion. We don't need to know necessarily all the inner workings of all of the subcommittees, but just if we can keep the updates relevant for what we need to know. We will, I think most of the subcommittees, if not all, have some sort of work plan. So we will make sure that you get all of those details and any minutes that subcommittee might have taken if you want to do a deeper dive. But just to kind of manage our time box, if we could keep everything succinct and to the point, and if you have a motion, let us know what that is, and we'll table that and work through that. So we're going to get started with the budget committee first.
So I'm reporting out for Jen, as she is unavailable this evening. But our subcommittee met. It's just me and Jen and John that were in attendance. We were able to complete our work plan, and as part of our work plan, we need all of the subcommittees to put together any budget requests that they have for this current year. And if you could send them over to Jen and copy the CCAC email as to your priorities for budget. We would like to purchase this from this vendor and it would cost this much, in kind of like a wish list format. And then we'll be compiling everyone's wishes and we will figure out how we can spend our money the best. Not everyone's items may be filled, but we want to try to hit your biggest targets. And we would ask if you could do that in the next 10 days, since that you should have already had your meeting and your work plan, so we can finish ours up. As we'll need to look at our current CCAC budget and do an amendment, and we have a very strict timeline with the county. That's our big update.
And there are certain constraints around what we can leverage the funds for, so they'll also look at it through that lens and let you know if it's something that.
We'll let you know. We'll try to be very open and honest and saying these are the things we can, here's why not, have conversations if needed.
And what do we have currently in our coffers?
$2,500 for the whole year.
And we closed out what was left over?
Last year, yep.
Okay,
That
for
was
last year.
all. Yep.
Okay.
Before last year.
All right, any questions for the budget subcommittee?
Yeah, just a quick one. If we don't have any budgetary needs, do we need to send you anything?
Just shoot an email saying we currently have no budget requests.
Wonderful, okay.
Thank you. Good question. Did you?
Excellent.
Okay. All right, so let's move on to membership subcommittee.
We met briefly, we were discussing, I'll take it offline, but I have a couple questions on who our full membership team is. One key thing too is we like to keep it to a membership of an odd number, so if there's voting later in the year, well, more to come on that. But we do have the plan together that you can link in shortly. Just a couple of big items. We're working on like a standard order of procedure so that it's more easily pushed along. This team will also be, or this committee will also be providing recommendations for bylaw revisions related to membership. And we will be working on reviewing and revising the membership application just to ensure that expectations are clear and met kind of as you're coming in, doing a little bit more of pre-planning and explaining, so as you're coming into the membership team, or the CCAC team, that you have a little more background. So that's something that this team's gonna work on this year. And then we were also just throwing this out here as a possible, having like a December mingle just to get to know each other. It would be voluntary. We'll work on something. We've got no real idea yet, but just throwing it out there since we don't have a meeting that month, that maybe we can just get together for something fun, get to know each other. I threw a tentative date on for like I think it was the 16th of December, because obviously the normal 4 days like right before Christmas. So we'll get more to come. We'll send that out there. But and then in the plan, when you get it, you'll see kind of the tentative plan of like what we do month by month. One of the key things just as a whole is that watching the attendance of everybody and participation, making sure that those that are on the committee really still want to be on the committee, or that their needs or circumstances haven't changed, and that we'll keep a close eye on that throughout the year to see if maybe they should be replaced, or just knowing if we need to like change for voting options and stuff like that too. So we'll be working on that through January, and then we'll get the new applications out next year. So right now, currently 0 financial needs. Tara. I'll try to remember to send you an email, but I said it.
Gotcha.
All right, the communication subcommittee, who wants to share out there?
I'm super excited that Merritt and I will be co-chairing. We've got some really good ideas running, things that we've heard people say, things that came up in our committee meeting. We really want to focus on finishing strengthening our website. We've got some really good input there. I've been actually chatting with Dorothea a little bit on some ideas to make our resource area of our website really strong. So I will be putting the resource form in the group chat, because we need all your favorite resources. Dentists that are really good with your kid who's autistic, a lawyer or an advocate you like. We want to kind of cover all bases. We're going to continue. We've got the beautiful rack cards that came in last year, so we want to hopefully get those out in places like Partner for Success, have them available at tables we're at events, and hopefully get them out in some of our vendors' offices, workplaces where they can have them out for people to pick them up. As always, we're here to assist the other CCAC subcommittees, and then we've got some really great ideas that we want to kind of look into this year that probably won't roll out until either late in the year or next year, because we want to make sure that they're fully researched, really strong. But one of the things that has come up a lot is some kind of newsletter or mailing list for families and stakeholders that want to know more about CCAC as a way to kind of get that outreach out. And that's it for right now. We'll have a few more details at the next meeting with what we've been working on, but we had a really good first meeting.
I just have a clarification question. With regards to the resource list, will this be building on last year's resource list that you had requested?
Yes.
And will we be able to see that resource list so that people don't do duplicated efforts?
Yes. I'm going to create, based off of that form, a spreadsheet. It got buried, but I'm going to create that spreadsheet so that we can have that available for people to look at, clean up any of the duplicates, and that way it's available for everybody. But we did not actually get that many responses last year, so I really want to try to push it out more this year.
Yeah, I think, a list of resources is good. I know we've got a lot of people working on lists of resources, and I want to make sure that we're not duplicating efforts, because that's a huge thing of what Partners for Success already does. So if there's a way to, funnel things to Partners for Success so that they can sort of be the repository of all the things. I don't feel that CCAC needs to be an owner of that necessarily, because there's a lot of other people that are already doing this. So it's just something to consider.
So also on FCPS's website is the CAS resource guide, which is like 87 pages. So that's all encompassing to students and families, but just to make sure that, it's one of my responsibilities, and I update that every summer to make sure the numbers and addresses and contact people are alive, so.
Yeah, so it might be a better strategy.
Alive.
Link to
Links
one. Yeah, and I think, so for the membership committee, one of the new things is we're getting a standard operating procedure created so that we can repeat these patterns and we have good handoff, and we're looking more holistically at membership, making it equitable, making it a good experience for folks. And then for communications, I feel very strongly that we have a strategy. So I hope that you're considering building that into your work plan. We have all of these different channels. What's our communication strategy? How are we supporting the other subcommittees? And growing what we have and making that sustainable and awesome before we kind of, add more things to our toolbox. Resource fair, events committee.
So we had our first meeting. One of the big follow-ups from our meeting is we'll be reaching out to all of those that were not able to attend because we were not able to establish a chair. I am not able to chair the committee, so we'll be sending out and looking for someone to chair the committee to do the administrative note-taking, getting things sent out to everyone. So be on the watch for that, everyone. The other major thing is we just went over the big things programming-wise and goal-wise for the year regarding the resource fair, continuing to partner with Partners for Success and other community partners for education and opportunities for all of our stakeholders, including our educators, our community, and our parents and families. One of the things that actually came up was scheduling something for December so that to have an event in December for all of us to come to. So we'll
Minds think alike.
We'll sync up.
Yeah, to have an event for all of us to be able to get together and celebrate our successes. So be on the lookout for that. The other thing we'll be looking to do is to start figuring out how we can engage more volunteers and other members of our community as volunteers for CCAC at events and activities, not just the 30 of us that sit around the table. So look for more on that. And I think those are our major things.
Okay, student voices.
Yeah, so I will keep it brief. We met a couple of days ago on Saturday. It was myself, Janelle, and Dawn. And I'm very happy to announce Janelle as co-chair So, what we did was just kind of lay out our work plan and what we wanted to do for this year. I'll again keep it very brief. Our whole mission really is twofold. First, it's increasing awareness among our generally educated peers of disabilities. How do you approach that in a school setting? And then secondly, how do you take that a step further? How do we get that collaboration and ensure an inclusive environment? So we did that. We're still working out some of the finer details, but if I have any other updates, I will be sure to let you all know.
I want to apologize for missing whatever that meeting was.
No problem. I've been very busy with college ads.
More attention.
It is no problem. I've been very busy with college stuff myself, and I know Saturday night isn't, at like 7. Not the best time for it, so I'll do a better job in future.
Yeah.
I'll be a little bit more proactive next time, so no worries there, Kara.
Just pay me.
All right, so moving on to cameras in special education self-contained classrooms.
So, do you want me to give my feedback and then you can say something, Tori?
Sure, whatever you want me to.
So do you just want a wrap-up of the presentation?
Whatever you think is relevant for the committee to know.
Well, essentially, what we kept finding was that talking about cameras in the classroom, we're just talking about the idea of cameras in the classroom and getting people together with the task force. We got personal stories from the principal of Heather Ridge, several educators of students with special needs, several parents, other staff. We had human resources, legal, and what was security? There was one other
Union.
It was safety and security.
unions.
Safety and security. Well, it was HR kind of talked about the working conditions and the negotiations that would be.
The issue is that there are a huge number of different components to what happens when you start talking about this workplace condition. For many people, it came down to issues of privacy with the kids. And essentially, we started with like a 50-50 for or against, and then a little bit of needing more information. Halfway through the summer, we got more no, it was more for it and less against it. And then it went to 50-50. And by the end of the summer, it was 25% for a pilot program, 75% against, because people had really shared the issues that they have on the ground doing the job. And there were just too many factors to just say, go set up a pilot program. It's really, there's other things people needed to know about personal experience. One example is someone who has teenage boys in her class. Some kids spontaneously take off their clothes. And parents aren't real happy about having kids filmed, even if it's to find out something after the fact, if there was a safety issue. Something that was brought up to me since that was all done and since the presentation, a retired special ed teacher said, well, some therapies go on in class, and then you're going into the medical issues that are a whole different level of privacy issues. So essentially, I think what we're trying to say to them is, if they want to pursue a pilot program, they just need to know more about how this impacts people. Even if they decide to they being the Board of Ed, decided to advocate for legislation so it does get done at some point, there has to be more real conversation about how this is going to affect people before they'll get enough people to agree and pursue it.
So with the work group concluding its business, is CCAC concluding the ad hoc committee? Are we continuing that on? Is there a recommendation to continue with the ad hoc committee, or anyone in CCAC, you or otherwise?
I don't see a purpose in me going forward. I think it's more important that more people need to have the conversations we had over the summer. If this is an important tool to figure out if there's a way to use it in classrooms, more people you have to talk to more people about how it impacts them, only because I just,
Sure,
I
sure.
see it being really hard to get somewhere on it if you don't have a goal other than cameras are good.
So is CCAC interested in continuing with the ad hoc subcommittee focused on this?
I was going to make a motion to say no tonight, only because I was on the interested committee and I had reached out to a couple, I think it was, did we talk on the phone?
I don't remember.
You don't remember? Oh, it was me and some gentleman and I were talking on the phone. He's a part of the committee, I swear it was legitimate. Was, I took it. But after your last presentation, Dorothea, and then the information that came out that was presented at the board, it really did sound like this is something that's going to go to legislation or something higher above to really get some the details that are needed or the agreements that are needed through the negotiated parties, all the different parts that you had discovered that we just need to be able to know where this committee would take it. So I was going to make that motion to say no thank you at this time, to use our resources in our other committees. And I don't know if that's a formal way of saying that motion or not, so I apologize. That's the first time I've ever made a motion, ever.
That's what I'm hearing is that you moved to disband the ad hoc committee focused on cameras in the classroom.
I'm gonna channel that language for the meeting.
Is there
I wholeheartedly second.
You second that, okay. Any discussion around that?
I would just say, everybody keep it on your radar, because they are a good tool. There's just, every single person who's involved in this has the ability to just say no and stop it. And unless people are talking about how to make changes or how it can work for them, it's just talking about stuff.
Sure.
But keep it on your radar, because it's still a good tool, and a lot of people do want it, and they have a valid reason to want it.
Well, there's a clear path.
And there are legislation things that come up and down, right? There's legislative things that people could be involved in as well, like at Annapolis, right?
You know,
Someone would have to sponsor a bill around this, and then you.
Well, there's been multiple bills, that's what I'm saying, they keep popping back up and.
Not in the last couple years. I feel like the last one was 2022.
That was the last one that was killed?
I think I have a little information on people in the legislature who are still trying to advocate. If I can put my hands on that, I'll put it up in the group, the whole member chat. If something's going to happen, there's going to have to be a broader statewide advocacy that goes to some of these members and really pushes it.
Okay. So, anyone opposed to the motion on the floor? Okay. Any abstentions? Seeing none, the motion carries. And I don't know what our count is of voting members here. Somebody has to help me with that. The majority calculate that. Just for your minutes.
How many voting
your
members
record.
we have?
Yes, we need a count.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, so while we're doing that, moving on, so we've got,
I have
19, okay. Bylaws Committee, Bylaws Subcommittee is the only other ad hoc committee that exists right now, and there are no updates around that subcommittee, because those of us that are on that subcommittee are all focused on all the other things that we've talked about so far. But as soon as we get past the Board of Education recommendation process, we'll be getting some focus on that. And we know we're going to have inputs from the membership committee. If anyone here has bylaw changes that you would recommend, you can send them to the CPAC Gmail, and we can take those into consideration when we get ourselves a meeting on the calendar to bring focus to this. Okay. So I think that is it for our subcommittee reports. Did we have any public comment?
Did we want to talk about the Board of Education candidates at all? That was an ad hoc.
Yes, we can. Sorry, I did not have that listed on here, but so the ad hoc committee focused on the Board of Education election. So there was a panel discussion held with 5 of the 6, although all 6 were invited. 1 candidate did not participate, and again, It was in partnership with the Parent Resource Center. It was held at the Parent Resource Center. We had, I think, 12 or 13 people join us virtually to listen in to the candidates' responses to the various questions that were focused on special education. So we could not record it due to technical issues, so unfortunately you had to be there to hear their various views, and then we shared information around the early voting is happening now, and then November 5th is the general election. So that, I think, concludes the work of that ad hoc subcommittee at this point. Happy to answer any questions.
I'd like to make a motion to disband.
Second. Any discussion? Okay, any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so that's 19 in favor.
Got it.
All right, thank you for that reminder.
You're welcome.
Okay, public comment. Did we have any public comment signups? 2. Are they here?
Yes, they are present.
Okay. So we want to.
I can get a speaker.
Yeah, thank you.
For them to.
They've been sitting there for a while.
Very patient.
Sign up information. I don't know who I'm calling on or. Sorry. Where? Come over in front of me. Okay, do you have the name?
Excuse me, Jamie.
Yes.
Well, he's getting the technical stuff set up. Is this presentation available?
Yes, it's in the Google Drive.
Okay. Only because I'd like to see the committees.
Yeah, it's in the Google Drive.
All right.
This information you need?
Yeah, those 2 pages, yeah.
She's
doing that. I keep seeing
Keep pressing away.
You
don't know what you signed up for?
No, I know what I signed up for.
I love you.
I never heard about it. Never saw the email.
We do have 2 folks here for public comment this evening, so 3 minutes for public comment. Yes. So are you Jessica or Melissa?
I'm Jessica.
You are Jessica. Thank you, Jessica.
Thanks for letting me speak. I'm reading from my phone, so this might be difficult. So I'm here today to advocate for neuro-affirming practices and genuine inclusivity in the FCPS schools. Inclusive education benefits everyone by promoting social skills, respect for diversity, and problem-solving abilities in real-world settings. It fosters a sense of belonging and ensures that all students feel valued and supported. However, the current inclusion model in FCPS's in-person schools isn't working as it could. It's unfortunate because if implemented effectively, inclusion can be transformative for each and every individual. Both of my children are autistic. One is currently enrolled in the virtual high school, having attended RVP last year, and the other is now homeschooled. Through their experiences in the in-person environment, the disabled students, were expected to comply and fit into situations that were not inclusive of them day in and day out. If they didn't, they were misunderstood, shamed, harassed, physically assaulted, and left to be shells of themselves, usually by peers, but sometimes by staff. One effective way to achieve inclusion is through options such as a remote virtual program. From our experience, RVP is both neuro-affirming and inclusive. It may not be the right fit for every student, but it absolutely serves hundreds now and will support thousands in the future. This is a step in the right direction. As we know, each child learns differently, and for many neurodivergent students, traditional educational approaches don't meet them where they are, and neuro-affirming practices go beyond simple accommodations. They create an environment that values neurodiverse strengths and recognizes the unique ways the students engage with the world. The culture includes providing RVP as a choice for neurodivergent students and others too, but we're here. So consistent sensory-friendly spaces for learning as well as for lunch, PE, and hallways, flexible and accessible learning options and environments, alternative options for PE and other activities, Those are just a few of a ton, but in addition to implementing these changes, also requires ongoing training for educators, administrators, and staff to ensure they feel equipped and empowered to support neurodivergent students with compassion and understanding. However, the responsibility for inclusion should not stop there. One of the biggest hurdles we faced in in-person schooling was the neurotypical peers were often unequipped to engage with or understand neurodiverse classmates. Starting with the superintendent and the BOE on down, it's imperative that FCPS show a commitment to a culture of empathy and compassion by implementing neuroaffirmative practices and setting examples for other districts. And I want to say something too. I'm sorry, what is your name, the student?
I'm Jake.
Jake, you mentioned that. You said, what can we do? And that was like, perked up my ears, and I thought that was really awesome that you said that, because that's the biggest problem. Like, my kids are, I know I'll try to be real quick, but my kids are lower support needs, and there's a certain place on the spectrum that the schools just don't meet. And it's one extreme or another or whatever, and they just can't handle the sensory part of it. Super smart kids, but they can't handle the misunderstanding by a lot of teachers. They're just not educated. So just wanted to get this out there. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we have Melissa Midwood.
Yeah. I'm also here in support of the remote virtual program. We've had access to the results of the work group on virtual learning that was required by Senate Bill 610. We know the recommendations that were made. The work group emphasized the importance of digital learning accessibility for all students with flexibility for the program to meet the needs of the community, equitable access to technology, high-quality virtual educators, opportunities for student engagement and innovative programs. In addition to that, there should be an application process, clear program guidelines, and an examination of the necessary supports for students of specific populations. At my sixth graders conferences, I was told that he's advanced in writing, and so although he's in sixth grade, he's going to be able to get some work in seventh grade. I was told that he solves math problems differently than other students, so he's going to be able to get some enrichment through a power block. In science, they're doing a deep dive into one topic each quarter. My son, who dreaded science, told me that he wishes he could have science every day. The point being that the teachers in the remote virtual program are fantastic and engaging. They communicate regularly with parents. The learning is personalized, which makes it more interesting to the kids. Although accommodations would probably be helpful to my son, I've been able to help him manage his anxiety at home. His doctor and I do not think it could be managed properly or successfully in person. A statement recently put out by FCPS stated, FCPS continues to gain international recognition for its innovative efforts in providing evidence-informed instruction that benefits all students. Our mission is to provide every student every day with the supports they need to be successful in the classroom. A critical aspect of that approach is understanding how students best glean information. I'm saying if this statement is true, then FCPS cannot take away the school from these children. Our families have been saying since May that this is what our children need to be successful. It's serving kids with autism, anxiety, ADHD, Tourette's, depression, kids who've been bullied, kids who are fearful for their safety, Gen Ed kids who learn better in a quiet place. The list goes on and on. The elementary school was also serving a medically fragile child until it was taken away from her. Our families have been at every board meeting since May to fight for the school. We will continue until it is reinstated and staffed properly. This school has allowed these kids to thrive for the first time, and it needs to be available for any child who needs it, whether that be a special education need or a general education child who learns better through the virtual model. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we continue to hear from our families regarding the RVP remote virtual program. And after the last CCAC meeting, all of that public testimony that we received was forwarded on to the Board of Education. I am still looking for an acknowledgement to that communication. If you could help, that would be appreciated. I will continue to forward on and ensure that the voices that come forward through CCAC make it to our Board of Education members as well. So we will take that action and make sure that this is shared be on CCAC on your behalf.
You did not get a response
Did
from.
not receive an acknowledgement to the information that was forwarded just after our last CCAC meeting. So if you would help check in on that, that would be appreciated.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so going back a little bit in our agenda here, I just wanted to go back to unfinished business. So on the topic of Board of Education and the recommendations, we have been doing a lot of work, and I wanted to make sure everybody has awareness of what we've been up to around that topic. So we did host sort of an overview session for any new members. I believe that was somewhere around October 2nd. I'm trying to get back to my timeline here. So yes, October 2nd, we did a virtual session with folks who wanted to come in and learn about the Board of Education recommendation process. So I think Zoe, you and maybe there were a few new members that joined that session. And we just kind of talked about background information that you can leverage to ideate around potential recommendations. We talked through the process for anybody that's new. We also held a workshop on October 5th, and we had... That's what Zoe was at. Zoe was at the workshop there, along with Melissa and a handful of other folks, where we did some breakout brainstorming, and we ideated on problem statements that we want to solve for and came up with some potential solutions for that. We did a little bit of a preview of some of those ideas with Troy and Katie and Dr. Bingman. The exciting thing is that a lot of the recommendations that were coming out in those brainstorming sessions are in alignment with what they're already focusing on and looking to prioritize. So at this point, the executive officers, so myself, Jen, and Tara, and Laura all met on the 12th of October, and we reviewed all of that information and kind of started thinking through some talking points, potential questions that we might be fielded by the Board of Education as we present the recommendations. So we're talking through some strategies around that and the content. And now what's next is to really synthesize it and package it up into a presentable format that we can share with all of you. We did ask for final feedback on any recommendations by the 20th, so that was 8 days ago. So what we have is what we have, and that's what we're going to work from. We won't be using the November meeting for workshopping any of the recommendations. So we tried to provide multiple opportunities for folks to weigh in on what you think we should take forward to the Board of Education in December. And what we're working towards is the December 11th presentation to the Board of Education. Now, prior to that, we are going to socialize with our directors and Dr. Bingman, the presentation. It has to go through a process. I also want to make sure that Dr. Dyson has awareness of what we're recommending as well. And you all should have the final, I think we've got the 16th of November when that presentation has to be sent off. So the 16th or the 18th, Troy's going to keep me honest on the date probably. So we are working to make sure that we hit all of those deadlines so that we can be ready on December 11th to provide these recommendations to the Board of Education. So that is what we have in terms of updates around that process in our unfinished business section of the agenda. The 18th. Okay. So that's our sort of drop dead date to get that over so that it can go through the process and be ready for handing off to the Board of Education. Any other unfinished business that we might not have covered? Updates for folks? Okay, so with that, we are going to move into comments from parents, I believe, before we head out and close out our meeting. So we've got comments from parents, community members, staff. So if we have any parents who have any comments that they'd like to share with the committee, now is the time to do that. I would ask that you just be respectful of time, keep it succinct. We have a lot of parent members, we have a lot of folks who might want to share something. And if it's an ask of CCAC, let us know what your ask is, or an ask of the directors to bring forward information that you might want to know about. If we could structure it that way, that might be helpful as well. So any parent members want to share any comments? Anything that you would like to know more about or have brought back from? Okay. Community members? Anything going on in ARC or anything to share?
We had our future planning event this past week, so we had about 30 families come and attend it, so really successful. Hope they got a lot of really good information. We're looking to partner with Elville Associates, which is a law firm in Columbia. Mr. Elville was crucial in helping the law pass for supported decision-making in the state of Maryland. They will be providing a free webinar Zoom virtual experience for anyone in our community, and I believe it's November the 12th in the evening. I want to say 6 o'clock, but I'm not sure. But I'll be forwarding the flyer probably by the end of this week, so that'll be available to anybody to post. And like I said, it's a free community event for any family that's interested in alternatives to guardianship, supported decision-making, and more information on special needs trust.
Great. Anyone else? Any other community members who might want to share anything? Staff? Quiet. This is shocking. Okay, well, in light of that, we could. Oh, students, yes. I'm so sorry, Jake and Janelle.
Thank you for recognizing us. For me, I have nothing. Great work, guys.
Half a general.
Cheerleaders.
Sure.
The yellow shirts reminded me, and I guess also because, like, talking about the elections and stuff coming up, and so I know that, like, other unions wear colors. When we go to the Board of Ed meeting, is there a color or something that we wear to represent CCAC as, like, a group united?
I love the thought. We don't have any funding that allows us to buy t-shirts or name badges or anything. So if we did something like that, we would all have to do that as a pay your own way kind of thing. If people are interested, we can certainly create an online store that's branded and you can get something.
You wanted us to all wear, like,
yeah, a certain color or something, yeah.
I didn't know if there was, like, something that you would like us to wear to, like, show us as a community.
I love that idea.
Do you have a color suggestion, Zoe?
I don't. I just was looking at the yellow shirts and it reminded me.
Yellow is a very good color.
Blue.
All right, we'll send something around and we'll figure that out. We have a little bit of time. Thank you for that suggestion.
I have another comment. We had a lot of fun at the Adaptive Trick or Treat on October 18th at Rock Creek School. It was so much fun. Thank you, Dorothea, for dinosaurs. It was fun, and my daughter had a very, very wonderful time there, and the candy was delicious. And my daughter went to every single table to pick up every single item of swag that we have added to our mountain swag at home. So, and I appreciate Cass's kindness, and we were there as well, but all the entire groups that I cannot name, they were wonderful, and we had a nice turnout.
Yeah, so if you haven't seen the pictures on Facebook or Instagram, an amazing dino display provided by Dorothea and her husband. And
by Ed.
Yeah, Ed was very into it, and it was awesome. It was a huge draw for all of the kids to come over. It was an animatronic mouth that opened and closed, and then we also had bubbles, thanks to Cass. And so dinos and bubbles, they were very popular. So it was a lot of fun for us to be there. Anything else?
Yes.
I have one question first. So there's a Special Olympics league that Rock Creek School is hosting on Monday nights. I'm supposed to be there right now, but I'm not. But it's like an inclusive special league, so they want children with special needs, and they also want gen ed population. So I'm glad I'm on the student committee, because I think that might help with what we talked about tonight, but I literally came upon it. It was not advertised to me. I work for FCPS, and I never got an email about it. So I signed my son up, and I'm there as well. So I feel like there's like a lack of communication about there's communication, but it's not directed in a sense that it gets to everyone. I just came across it on Facebook.
Well, is it the Unified Special Olympics? Is the first Special Olympics unified team with the basketball?
Yes, because
I saw a small article about
the guy's name came up, Mike Price, and I recognized that name because Benji was in 5th grade last year, and that's his dad. And I was in 5th grade, so it came up, and I was like, oh, this is great, because I can bring my son to it, and he can work with kids like I do, and so.
It was embedded in one of the Connect emails that goes out, which are like 747 scrolls long. And that's kind of mild. Like my middle school letter is 747 squares. But it was in there. It was embedded way down in there.
And that-
because I saw pictures from the first practice.
Yes, that made me think of like.
How you signed up, because it was already.
Nobody knew about it at my school. Nobody. They were like, what are you doing? How am I the only one that came across this? And I was like, I'm bringing it up.
So you can still sign up for it?
I would assume so. It's just like any other time you volunteer with the school system, you have to have 2 references and a background check, and that includes participating members and just like, I'm just there. So I'm like, I signed up as well.
Okay. I don't know if that's something to push out through, find out. It's not find out first.
Because students can still sign up now too.
That one's actually Special Olympics Frederick County, right?
Yeah,
So
it's unified.
I will tell you, it's taken me 18 years to figure this out. But there are multiple divisions of Special Olympics. And so this is why it's also a little confusing, because no one at Special Olympics does it either. So there's unified sports within the school system that are specific to middle and high school right now. Maybe there's a little something else, but there's a specific school-based unified sports that are sponsored by the school. Then there is Special Olympics Frederick County that has traditionally been mostly ages 16 and above, which is for what they call adults. This new league is also Special Olympics Frederick County that is now specific for under 16, which is what you're talking about. It's brand new, very cool, we're excited about it. And then there's Special Olympics Unified, which is a little bit different, and then there's Special Olympics outside of Maryland, just like National Special Olympics. So it gets a little confusing.
And then there's adaptive programs
Adaptive
through
programs.
Frederick County Parks and Rec,
Right.
which also houses many things at Rock Creek School.
And many of those
So-
things they always typically use
And I had never been there.
facilities.
I hope I'm walking into the right place right now.
It's unified, but it's Special Olympics Frederick County.
Yeah, but
right?
unified.
But not FCPS. They're using the school's facilities as an outside.
And Mike Price is doing youth. It's all youth.
So yeah, that's youth, not the 16 and above.
Right.
But both Frederick County, not
And it's all skill level too. So like, it's not like for kids who play basketball in the county, right? And then they want to come and they want to support special needs. Like, you don't even have to. My son does not play basketball. So I brought him there, and literally he was just walking around, just doing that was helping. So, but there was more partners than athletes.
Okay, so thank you for sharing that. Is this an opportunity for Partners for Success or the 87-page CAS resource guide to like distill for everyone what Kara just described somewhere, somehow, so that it's a little bit more clear on all these different...
One day I'll go work for Special Olympics and then I'll be
I'll be volunteering for the unified teams.
Awesome, okay. Question from Laura.
I do. How does FCPS coordinate these communications, and how can we do better with that?
So that, I'll be honest.
Harsh question.
In my years, so to Kara's point, our adaptive PE team, like they take on a lot with the internal unified sports. But Special Olympics is like, you know, it's like anything else. It's an extracurricular. It's not even attached to the school setting. So it's more of just a resource.
I mean, they could put Peach Jar, you know, with community events. I mean, that could be something that could be utilized for that, but it's not an FCPS sponsored.
And to what degree is FCPS responsible for promoting things outside of FCPS?
We typically, I mean, you know, obviously if the case manager was asked, we know about it. And so we, you know, it's like more of word of mouth, but we don't necessarily promote a certain, unless we have an MOU with that actual.
That's what I was wondering, because that could be a slippery slope.
Yeah, and our Facebook page, I think what we utilize more is just sharing what's going out in the community. Right, even if it's not FCPS sponsored, it's just sharing the resources.
And I think like what Troy said, I think those of us who help support children and families, if we're aware of it, then we can say, hey, if, you know, this might be something you want to look into.
Great.
On our Facebook.
Yeah, I think we can share it. That's good information.
Yes, that's,
Thank you.
should be part of our communication strategy, I would think.
I think that would be beneficial, yes. It's just a thought, opinion.
All right, anything else from folks? Okay, with that, it is 7:47. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn our meeting early.
I'd like to recommend we adjourn the meeting.
Okay.
I will second the motion.
All right. I don't think you actually need a second according to parliamentary procedure. So the meeting is adjourned at 7:47. Thank you.